Hey, book besties. Welcome to More Than a Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Leyna.
And I'm your other host, LJ. And today is one of our favorite episodes of every month, which is what, Leyna?
It's Literary Lately, and it feels like we just did this.
It does feel like we just did this.
It feels so fast. We do it once a month, but I feel like we just did this.
Yeah, summer's flying by. Maybe that's why.
It is. Maybe that's why. Anyway, how many books have you read?
I read 4 books since our last episode. And y'all notice I didn't say only. I said I read 4. And I think this year, I am just setting the example for normal people that don't read crazy like we do typically. So there you go, you guys.
And I also think everyone has seasons in their life where they read more. So
It's true. It's true. So yeah.
I did read 14, but I will say I had 6 arcs that I read.
That's what I was going to ask, because the arcs are like on a deadline if you finish them, which I didn't.
I am past deadline on probably 4 now because I have learned my lesson. Don't keep requesting arcs. And I got approved for so many, and I'm like, oh, this is fine. I'll have plenty of time to read them. And then I did not. So that has been a struggle to get through. And it's one of those things where I've enjoyed some of them immensely, and then some of them have been real slogs. So yeah. And these are all on my Kindle. So then that's a different reading part for me. So I guess I'll start.
Yes, that's probably good.
A couple of books. And this was, I really tried to do Christmas in July. I read some of them, but I wanted to read all the Christmas books. But because I had the arcs, and then I got some library books that came through, it just didn't work out. But I did read some Christmas books, and I'll start with my absolute favorite, which was Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon by Matthew Norman. This book was so good, and it was recommended if you liked This Book Made Me Think of You, which I also really liked.
Which you said was amazing. That's on my list of books to read that you've recommended. I mean, my list of like 100, but whatever.
It was a really good book, that one, and Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon. And the whole plot of Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon is 2 individuals whose spouses have died, very different life circumstances, and their mothers are neighbors and decide that they need to meet and are matchmaking for them. And it's one of those very obvious meet cutes that they're like, oh my gosh, my mom just fixed me up. So it kind of has that feeling of loss because they did lose their spouses, but they're all getting through the grief in their own way. Grace has 2 children, so she's trying to juggle her grief with her 2 kids. And Grace and Henry start by talking about holiday movies because that's what Henry and his wife used to do. They would watch movies all Christmas long, Christmas season. And so they decide to start watching these movies together. And there's a couple that they watch together in person. There's a couple that they watch while they're both on the phone, and then a couple that they watch separately and just talk about. But it has everything from like Die Hard to Elf to like all the different Christmas movies you can think of. And there is a conversation about if Die Hard is an actual Christmas movie. But
it is.
It's
I say.
I have mixed feelings. But
that's okay.
But it was such a good book, and not only because it's a rom-com, even though it has death as a big part of it and the grieving process, but it is a rom-com, and there is friendship as well as some romance sprinkled in. So I really liked the friendship aspects before the romance took off. So that was that.
That's cool.
Such a good book. I would highly recommend everybody go get it. Another Christmas book I read was Christmas Presents by Lisa Unger. This was a totally different type of Christmas book that I've ever read. It's a thriller. Okay. And I don't think I had ever read
because I was like, Lisa
Christmas
Unger.
Thriller. Yeah.
Because I don't know if I've read a Lisa Unger, but when you said that, I was like, I feel like I know her name, but I was thinking, isn't that like mystery thriller? Okay, so what's it called again?
Christmas Presents. And that's
Okay.
presents like gifts.
Okay.
The whole thing starts, there's a true crime podcaster, and he's opening up a cold case because some things were never solved. And he's talking to Madeline Martin, who was involved in an incident where her best friend was killed, and then two girls that were also her friends have disappeared, and they never have found them. Someone has been convicted of the murder of her friend, and also there's some charges against him for like assault for Madeline, but nobody knows what happened to the other two girls. He swears he didn't do it, but anyway, so it was a really good book. I gave it 4 stars. I think part of it was just that it was so different because you don't expect murder.
Yeah.
You don't expect thriller.
Yeah, no.
Another kind of different book I read was Home for the Holidays by Elle Cosmiano and Hannah Morrissey. This was an arc. It's coming out, I want to say September.
Okay.
It wasn't my favorite. It reminded me of, and you and I have talked about this, what's the book? Where it's the Christmas town and had the candy cane scene.
Oh, God. How My Neighbor Stole Christmas or something.
Yes.
Or
How My Neighbor Stole Christmas.
Megan Quinn.
Yes.
Ugh.
It reminded me a little bit of that, but with murder. And it was different because Elle Casimano, she does the Finley Donovan books, which I love, and I think she does really well. But this just had some raciness that didn't feel natural. Like it didn't fit the characters. And then the whole book takes place in a town called Christmas, where Christmas is like the big thing. Everybody is named after a Christmas character. People have names like Holly and last name is Snow. Like it was just a little bit over the top, which I think was the point, but it got to be annoying. And then there were just some icky parts that I was like, I don't want to think of these circumstances. I don't know. I didn't want to read it in this Christmas book. It was just a little bit much for me, but that's okay. But there is a murder and they have to solve the murder, and it's 2 special agents. It's like enemies to lovers. Enemies to lovers, but with murder, and they're special agents. This did say this was the first in the series, so I'm guessing there's going to be other books in this series, but maybe they won't take place at Christmas. What's your first book?
All right. Well, my first one I've been talking about since May, and I finally finished it. And yes, I'm talking about The Huntress by Kate Quinn. I finally finished it. That is not to say it was not good. It was a 5-star read for sure. It is a World War II one, but we don't get, it's kind of jumps around to different time periods. We've got some pre-war Soviet Union, we've got post-war Boston, and there are 3 people that are trying to hunt for the elusive female Nazi war criminal known as the Huntress, which I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I looked, because they use the German name for her throughout at times, mentioning her. And I looked up how to say it, or, listened, so there's not another mercantile situation. And it's D. Jaegerin. So D. Jaegerin is how you say it. And it's not spelled like that. But anyway, so it was so good. The big thing about this one that is particularly new compared to some of the other World War II books is that this one is about during the war, about the Soviet Union had female fighter pilots. And I had never heard of that. There are so many unique things about World War II and the Holocaust that could have been shared, or at least, historically shared, because I could understand people not wanting to share their story. We know that was such a horrible time in history. That being said, someone could share about this. I feel like I've learned about so many different things in my 30s and 40s, especially in my 40s, that are just so, I'm like, I wish I had known about this sooner. And I guess a lot of it does have to do with women in it. And perhaps that's why. And not even just World War II, but war in general. Because I think about, oh my gosh, what's it called that I loved so much that took place during the Vietnam War? by Kristen
The
Hanna.
Women.
I forgot what it's called. You know what I'm talking
The
about,
Women.
though. Yeah. Yeah, The Women. And then also even thinking about, which is not the same time in history, but like the Frozen River, all these things that these historical fiction that are showing, in Lady Tan's Circle of Women. I feel like there's a lot more coming out about different times in history that it's like, wow, why haven't we learned this now? But I especially feel like in World War II, around World War II, I've learned more and more about things that I never knew about. So highly recommend The Huntress. Such a good
I'm
book.
excited to read that. It's come up on my library hold. Like, it's ready. I just need to unsuspend it and start reading. But it's like the audiobook is like 19
It is a long
hours
book.
long. Yeah.
Yeah, I did
one.
the physical/digital because I did get the digital copy because font, you know.
Yes.
But I do think it would be a really good one to listen to, which I'm getting more. I was telling Leyna, I'm getting more into audiobooks, and I used to not be able to do fiction audiobooks, and I'm getting better at it, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't know. Maybe it's going back to childhood in my 40s. Forget a midlife crisis. My midlife crisis is going to be like going back to youth.
Bring it on. Bring on all the audiobooks. I'll get you to my side.
You're pulling me. All right, back to you.
Okay, I'm going to start with 3 more Christmas in July books.
You did so good. I love it.
I was proud of myself. So I had 6 total. One was an arc. It was New Year's Grieve by Elizabeth Foscui. So it comes out around, I think they all come out in like September, October is when all the Christmas books start hitting the shelves. And this one, it says it was for fans of Truly Devious and Knives Out. This rich family has this summer retreat that they go to, this house, but they decide to go at Christmas because it's the granddad's 90th birthday. And so they're having like a big celebration with all the family, but none of this family gets along. The main character, Jojo, she is coming along because her dad is basically making her. He offered to buy her 2 surfboards if she went. So she goes to help support her mom. And her relatives are just awful. The grandpa dies, and then they're trying to figure out who killed the grandpa. Some people think that it was natural causes. She thinks that someone murdered him. And so she's on a mission to figure out who murdered him. I gave it 3.75 stars. I didn't think it was quite 4 stars. There were some things that were a little bit annoying, but part of that annoying stuff, it might have been because JoJo is a teenager. And I was trying to make her an adult, but she is a teenager. Like, she's 17. No, she's 18. So she doesn't have a fully formed prefrontal cortex. So I gave her a little bit of slack for that, I guess. Another one I read was Christmas by Accident by Cameron Wright. And this one, there's an insurance adjuster, and then there's a lady who gets into a car accident. And during the series of this, the insurance adjuster meets the girl that was in the car accident and falls for her. So they're thrown together. There's different things that happen in this small town. It's all about Christmas because the main character, Abby, absolutely loves Christmas. And the other main character, the male main character, hates Christmas. So it's kind of one of those, I won't say enemies to lovers, because I think they become friends and then they become, I won't say lovers, but romantically interested. But yeah, it had a good message and I enjoyed it. There was another book which didn't take place at Christmas, but it took place in a snowy ski retreat.
Okay. Ooh.
And this was The Lodge by Kayla Olson. I gave it 4 stars.
I want to read that. Okay.
And this was the main character, Alex Morgan. She just got a deal to be a ghostwriter for a memoir of a former boy band member. One of the boy band members has disappeared completely. And the person that she got the ghostwriting gig for is the person that used to fight with the guy who went missing all the time. So there's been some speculation that he possibly murdered him, or that
Okay.
something happened, that he did something and the guy's gone. They don't know what happened. But they got into a fight and then the guy disappeared. So she is having trouble writing this book, and Sebastian Green, who's the boy band member, says, "Hey, I know of a ski retreat place. You can go and spend a month writing the book and be away from all the crazy of normal life." So she goes there, and it just so happens that her neighbor is extremely hot ski instructor, and they start having a relationship. There's a lot of banter, a lot of flirting. I loved it so much. There was a little bit, I didn't quite give it 5 stars just because, but I think it's definitely worth a read. It was very fun, and it had kind of a mystery aspect because you're trying to find out what happened to this other boy band member. And you get to hear the narration of the Sebastian Green as he's trying to help this lady write his book. So that was fun. But those are my last of my Christmas books. And it did help get through the July weather because it hasn't been as hot. It hasn't been as hot as it has like in previous years, but now we're heating up. Now we're into the plus 100 degree weather.
Which we're like,
Texas.
No, go away. Like, no, I've had enough of that already. And it hasn't even been that much yet.
No.
Not that many days, but it's picking up, like you said. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, my next one is Party of Liars, which it is by Kelsey Cox. And if y'all recall on our... This is why it feels similar, because we did the quarter
that's right.
ones.
Yes.
So we kind of had 2 back-to-back. That's why it feels similar. So I had mentioned Pretty Dead Things, which I'll talk about later. But then when I tried to get it from the library, my library didn't have it listed. But then I discovered, because I put the author in, because sometimes if you put the book in on our McKinney library, it won't come in. But if you put the author, you're like, here's the book that I just typed in that you said you don't have. So, but I managed to discover Party of Liars. Read that one first, and it was so good. And this one, I've talked about it, I believe, when I looked it up at our Literary Lately, or our quarter end one, or next quarter one. Mm-hmm. I looked it up and read about it there. But basically, it's a sweet 16 party for this girl. And it's like they're all at this party and someone falls to their death. Oh. And it takes place in the Texas Hill Country. There's multiple POVs. You don't know who's being completely honest. You don't know who really... It does talk about things like there's mental health stuff that it's like, so could that be impacting what people think is going on? And it's one that has both adult POVs and like teenage POVs. So it's a little bit and a little bit adult. And I loved it. It worked. It kept me on my toes. I was guessing the whole time. And then there was a really good twist that I did not see coming at the end. And I love when that happens because the book has finished and it's wrapping up loose ends. And so I'm like, okay, which is great. I like loose ends wrapped up. Less so in a thriller. I'm okay when some things are like, oh my gosh, but what about this? But then I was like, but it was kind of going longer than I was expecting that part. And then it's like, oh, but wait, there's more. And I just loved it. So
yes,
I highly recommend Party of Liars by Kelsey Cox, who is a Texas author. So,
and there we go. For me, reading a Texas author who's writing about Texas, and especially Texas Hill Country, because you don't get a lot of books about that specific area in Texas.
No.
So that sounds really fun. I'm excited to try that one.
Yes, I recommend it. So there we go. All right, back to you.
My next one is one that we talked about, or I talked about on our episode about next quarter's books coming out. It's Time Travel for Beginners by Jacqueline Moriarty. And yes, she is the sister of the very famous Australian author whose name is not coming to me, but has the same last name.
Leyna Moriarty.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I know her. We talked about her.
She's one of your favorite authors.
I know. It happens. I can't think of her name. It happens.
Our brains
We have
just
too many
disappear.
books in our heads.
We do.
But this one,
we do, for sure.
I love time travel books. So this was an arc, and it immediately piqued my interest because it was a time travel book. But this is 3 points of view. We meet Anna, Teddy, and Jade. And it says they're on a collision course, and the agency is the cause. So there's a time travel agency kind of tucked away in this shopping center. It sounds like, just one of those shopping centers that you drive by and you kind of miss things.
Yeah.
Anna has lost her job, and she ends up getting a job at the time travel agency. Teddy is a customer who comes into the time travel agency because his wife has recently left him, and he's trying to figure out why and what he can do to get her back. And Jade, we don't really see her go into the time travel agency, but time travel has affected her. So different points of view, all about this time travel agency. And I liked it because time travel was real. It wasn't something, sometimes you read books and it's like, we're going to go back to the beginning and butterfly effect things. But this was more of, I don't know if you've ever watched the TV show Loki, where if anybody's watched Loki on Disney, the timelines, instead of being one timeline where you can go back and change things, this splits off. So every time you go back in time, another timeline is happening.
Oh, that's cool.
So it like branches off, and you're making like branches of a tree. So every decision that you make changes something in your life. Like,
okay,
if you and I had decided not to make a podcast, what would our life be like?
Interesting.
And so
less fun.
One of the things,
less fun.
Less fun. I probably wouldn't be reading as many books, that's for sure. But it was really good, and it made you think afterwards. I finished this and I was like, in another timeline, I've done X, Y, and Z. And it kind of empowered you, because then you're like, in another timeline, I've already done this and it worked out and everything was good. And I don't need to worry about it because somewhere in my timeline, this has happened. And
that's cool.
Yeah. It was just kind of a fun book. If you like time travel, I would highly recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. I almost gave it 5. I think on Storygraph, I gave it like 4.5. But not too many people have read it, and it comes out soon. Like, it wasn't, some books you see the arcs for, and they've already had like 500 reviews. This one didn't have as many reviews, but it was a really good book. But maybe it's just because it does have that science fiction aspect.
Yeah.
But it was a good story. It was a love story. But I won't say that love centered as the main theme. It's more about people finding themselves and all of that.
Very cool.
Anyway, another book I read was Nancy Drew and the Secret of the Old Clock. And I absolutely loved it. This is Carolyn Keene. This is the first in the series. And last month we talked about, I thought I was reading the first in the series, but I was reading the second, and I didn't really enjoy it. But Nancy Drew and the Secret of the Old Clock, I really enjoyed this one. I don't know if it was maybe the sophomore slump. The second book wasn't as good. I'm sure people will fight me over this because she's a very famous author and everybody loves Nancy Drew. But I thought it was very good. Another book that I would recommend is The Forest Becomes Her by Julie Carrick Dalton. This was, again, an arc. I gave it 4 stars. It was such an interesting book because in this small town, I want to say it was Vermont, there's this huge forest that surrounds this small little town, and they're starting to clear cut some of the forest to build suburban McMansions, like the mini mansions. It's 3 points of view. One character is a young girl who the forest was very important to her and her mother and her grandfather, and her mother died. She buried her ashes at a specific tree that meant a lot to them. And she feels the forest calling her to plant more trees, to rebuild the forest. And then you have a real estate agent whose brother is the developer for all this, but she discovers it's like a green plant coming through in her basement. And I can't remember what exactly happens, but the plant gets into her skin. And she thinks it's a fungus at first, like maybe she has a nail fungus, but it is the plant. She's becoming the plant. Then there is a third woman who lost a baby. That's what we know. We don't know too much about it, but because there was an accident, she lost the baby. It doesn't cover that a ton. If that's a trigger for you, it does talk about her grieving and trying to find who's responsible for this. And I will say that it had some talk of environmental impacts of cutting down the trees and how that affects things further down the line that maybe people aren't thinking about. I thought it was really good. It was one of those books that makes you think, which I always enjoy. Kind of like Time Travel for Beginners. It made me stop and think about, like, well, I live in a town where they're cutting down a lot of trees to make way for development. I mean, our town motto for McKinney is unique by nature, and they've cut down so many trees. I remember they cut down trees at my favorite running path, and they built a playground, and it's a really nice playground. But I was so sad because I loved running in the shade of the trees, and now there's not as much of that.
Well, so on that, in my neighborhood, when I first moved here, all the signs was like your home in nature. And they have since changed it. And I don't remember what it is, but when the developer changed it, everyone was coming like, yeah, we know, we see. Because like north of my neighborhood, they're building, I think, just like north, or kind of like in like an L shape of the neighborhood. There's going to be a McDonald's. There's going to be a donut shop. There's going to be something else people were talking about. They were saying like maybe a gym, which that one people were excited about. But and I'm the one that's like, I wouldn't mind a McDonald's right there. I'm just saying, for me, mostly it would be like, if I like wake up on a Saturday morning, I'm like, I really want McDonald's breakfast. Like, that's what I would think of it as, more so than just like, let me pick up
and
McDonald's.
And you don't have much out towards you. You have to drive like 15 minutes to get anywhere.
Which, because of where I live, actually, and now that Melissa is building up, then it actually, a lot of the places in Melissa are closer to my house, or at least equal distance from North McKinney and Melissa. The grocery stores actually in Melissa are closer because they're right on the freeway.
And all of that used to be undeveloped land and nothing, and fields. It kind of makes it real whenever you're looking at your own community and like, McKinney used to be a rural, I can't say that word, rural area. And
that's a hard
now
word.
it's basically subdivisions. And anyway, so
definitely
that was a good book. I think it's your turn.
All right. So I've already mentioned it, but another one that I just finished actually yesterday is Pretty Dead Things, and it's also by Kelsey Cox. This is her new one that just came out this month. This one also takes place in the Texas Hill Country in a town called Arnold. The way they were saying it, I thought they were saying Humboldt, so it's like Arnold, I guess. And so it goes back and forth between two timelines. We go back to 2000, when a young woman named Isabel Whitmore vanishes without a trace in the middle of the Lone Star Princess pageant at this place called Sherman Ranch. So I was really confused. I'm like, Hill Country, Sherman Ranch. Sherman is north of us, but apparently there's a Sherman Ranch, or maybe a fake Sherman Ranch there. Anyway, but this is in the Texas Hill Country again. And this girl was a twin, and she disappears, and they still don't know where she is. They were going into they were either in their senior year. Yeah, I think they were in their senior year. So these would be people our age. And then we fast forward to, I want to say it's like 2023, maybe it was 2025. And now their daughters are about to do this same pageant. And it's in February, and there's like an ice storm coming. Okay, no, this had to have taken place in 2021, because 2021 is the only winter, right, where the whole state was a state of emergency during the ice storm.
Yes.
So it had to have been 2021. And because they're like there at this pageant at the ranch, but it's the days leading up to it, plus going back in time and trying to figure out, you've got points of view from so many different people. You've got multiple teenagers, multiple adult women. Then there's another murder like current time, or at least it appears to be. We're not sure. And now they're all trapped there and trying to figure out who's the killer. It's very interesting. It keeps you on your toes. This one I did the audiobook because I decided to use one of my Audible credits because I was like, hey, that's like free money, right? Girl math. I already paid for it, so it's free. I really enjoyed the audiobook because they did a really good job. The different POVs had very distinct voices. And I don't know if any of them were played by the same woman because there, like I said, there were a lot of like girls and women. And it was easy to tell a difference. Even the cadence of the way they spoke and accents, that they sounded slightly different. So I would know, even if I wasn't paying attention, like, oh, that's definitely Melanie because that sounds like Melanie. And I'm used to her voice. Plus her personality, her commentary is like, oh, I get her person, and that she's the only one that would be talking like that. And this one also had an insane twist at the end that I'm like, now I'm like, maybe I should have guessed this. Maybe, but I did not. So I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is definitely an author that, now that I think this is her second book, I definitely will be reading more books of hers in the future. And I hope that she continues to write about Texas, like things that take place in Texas.
Okay, what was her name again?
Kelsey Cox.
That name sounds very familiar. I had to write it down though because I was like, both of those books sound so good.
I did talk about her in the episode about the upcoming quarter, but yeah, I highly recommend her. And it, again, like it's like YA / not YA, so I kind of like how it has both elements.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to talk about a book that y'all have probably read. I'm just late to the party. This is Shark Heart by Emily Haback.
I have it, and I haven't read it. And I saw that you were reading it, and I was like, oh my gosh. By the way, correction, I did not finish Pretty Dead Things yesterday. I finished it earlier this week. I totally lied. Anyway, back to you. But Shark Heart, I'm dying to hear about it because I have it for Book of the Month, and I never read it.
I had heard so many things that this was such a good book. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean to read that. And I think I had the audio from Audible for like a year. At one point, I was going to read it. But this it's kind of, what do you call that? It's a world that is very similar to ours. Magical realism, maybe. But people can turn into animals. It's a genetic mutation. And the main character is a guy who finds out that he's transforming into a great white shark, which is a very rare mutation. And him and his wife had just gotten married a few months before, and now she's dealing with a sick husband who is turning into a great white shark. And as he's turning into a shark, he develops everything like a shark. Like his skin starts turning to shark skin. He starts developing fins, gills, also the teeth. And as he becomes more of an animal, his mannerisms become more of an animal and his instincts become more of a great shark rather than a human. So he's fighting this urge to attack her. And she's trying to help him remember who he is. Like it was just a very beautiful book. And we find out more about the wife's mother. At first, it starts off as the two married couples story, and then it transitions to her mother's story as she gets pregnant at a very young age, and it tells her story and what happens to her. It was a very moving book, and just this love story between husbands and wives, between animals and people. Like you see some of these people turn into animals that are very sweet, and some turn into animals that are not so sweet. And how do you do that? How do you stay married to someone who turns into a great white shark? What does that look like? I really enjoyed it. I know that a lot of people have read that, but if you haven't read it, go read it. It's a shorter book, so it's not super long. I read the audio. I enjoyed that very much. Another book that I read, this one was kind of interesting. This was Beth is Dead by Katie Burnett. And I believe this is classified as young adult. And this it takes the March sisters from Little Women, puts them in present day, and the father has written a book about the Little Women. And it's modern day retelling, basically, of, his book. And at the end, Beth dies. And the 4 daughters have read the book and they're just like, you killed off one of our sisters. And Beth is just kind of beside herself. And the other girls are like, you wrote me. And like Amy's like, you wrote me in this way that I'm vapid and only care about looks. Some of the stereotypes that you have read about these women as they're growing up, as we've read the historical book, now it's like, okay, you see their characters, but they're modern day and they're real people. And in this book, Beth is dead because Beth dies. And all the sisters are trying to figure out what happened. Was it an accident? Did someone murder her? It was really good. I did not see it coming, what happened. It was a good mystery, but you also felt like you were reading a modern day Louisa May Alcott. So that was fun.
Very cool.
And then my next book was Most Ardently Yours by Freya Sampson, which was an ARC. This one also had some magical realism, but was about characters in a book. So this one is the main character, Zoe Knight. She's a struggling romance writer. And she has written romance books, but then she decides that she's done with it because she doesn't know if she believes in true love.
Okay.
She reads books that are famous books and has book boyfriends. And one day she goes to this little bookshop that she's never really been in before, that the front storefront has, I think she calls it Dicklit, because it's all male authors. And she's like, I don't think there's going to be anything for me in here. But because it's raining, she wants to get out of the rain. So she goes in and meets the store owner, who's a big curmudgeon, and says that romance books don't belong in his store. And she debates with him. And then as she's leaving, she finds a copy of Pride and Prejudice. And he's like, I need that book back. You can't buy it. And she's like, no, I'm taking it. And she steals it and runs away. And then it turns out that this book is not an ordinary copy of Pride and Prejudice. She falls asleep and dreams of Mr. Darcy, which is her book boyfriend from Pride and Prejudice. And she wakes up and he's there. And it's the real Mr. Darcy, as real as he can be from the book. He is thrust into modern day London and he's like, what the heck is happening? So she thinks this is her ultimate chance to win Mr. Darcy over. Then it turns out that the bookstore owner is like, hey, I knew this could happen and you need to put him back in his timeline or you're going to erase the whole book and no one will have Pride and Prejudice. It was a really interesting take on that. It was really fun. I would go read it again.
Yeah.
And the last book is one that I would not read again and would not recommend. And this was Maurice by E.M. Foster. I gave it 2 stars. This was for the Neighbor Books Literary Fiction Book Club. I thought this was going to be a great book. It was written in, I believe, the early 1900s by E.M. Foster. It features a love story of 2 gay men back in the early 1900s. And E.M. Foster didn't publish this until after he died because he knew that a gay romance would not be accepted. They pitched this as a romance. I think it's a toxic relationship. And then whenever they go their separate ways, the main character, Maurice, does some very questionable things. And I just did not like his character. I was not rooting for him. It was not good. I would very much not read it. I'll save you the time. Don't read that book.
Okay, good. I won't.
Done.
I won't. Done.
And I think that's all of my books.
Okay, I have one more. The one that I actually finished yesterday. The Rule of One by Ashley Saunders and Leslie Saunders. And it's the first book in a dystopian trilogy that also takes place in Texas. It starts out in the Houston area, and it's in a very, like, it's supposed to be a near future US. And there is a one-child policy, but the head of the Texas Family Planning Division actually has twin daughters, and that he's been hiding one of the twins for 18 years. They've been trading days. But the thing is, everyone has a microchip in their wrist. And so they put like a fake thing under hers in case someone grabs her wrist to feel it. And so someone figures out that there are two of them, and police show up to, arrest their father and them. Their father sends them away. He gives them like this box. He's like, open it when you're outside of Houston. And he said, go to Amarillo. And so that was the thing. So they open up this box, and it has basically this map of safe houses with names of who they're looking for. And basically their ultimate destination is to get to a safe house, the final one on the list. And then there's some big shocking surprises there. And this is all about what's going to happen in this crazy world. What's really cool, though, I looked up the authors, and they're real life twin sisters. And so they use that unique perspective to be able to write, because you get both POVs. And there are 2 more books. By the way, all of them right now are on Kindle Unlimited. And not only that, they have where you can listen to them as well on Audible. So I actually listened to this one, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, maybe I'm going to start the next one, but but for October 27th, when the next ACOTAR book releases, I still need to listen to A Court of Silver Flames, because I'm doing audiobooks, and I need to listen to all 3 Crescent City books. So I'm like, that's a lot of hours. I'm like, maybe not, but we'll see. These are not as long. These aren't that long. I'm very intrigued by this world because it is different, but I enjoyed it. It's more YA than not, but it's not, there's some heavy stuff that happens. I mean, it's dystopian. What do you expect?
That was one of the books that we were talking about. What should I read next on my TBR? Because I've had that book forever, and I was like, I don't think I've read it.
Yeah, you shared that one.
You're talking about it, and I'm like, maybe I have read it. Because that was I was like, I don't think I've read it, but like my Goodreads didn't show it.
Here's what I will say. I gave it 4 stars. And part of that is because there is another series that is longer, that is YA, called, what's it called? It's like Children of the Hidden, or Hidden, Among the Hidden. I think that's what it's called. Yes. By Margaret Peterson Haddix. And there is a whole series. And it's not a twin, but basically second children aren't allowed. And this second child girl sometime sees this guy through a window, and then he sees her, and they start messaging and realize they're both second children. And so it's another dystopian world. And there are several books, and the first several were very good. I remember it got really dark, and I was not thrilled with that. But it was a really good, fast-paced series that I would recommend. And so this one, to me, after having read that, I definitely shared it when we did like childhood series books, I think, when we did an episode on that. So I'm on the fence about continuing too with that, because I know that one was so well done. And not that this won't be, but it's very similar. Anyway, but maybe you read it. It didn't say on Goodreads. I went on your Goodreads because I knew I had heard about it from you, and I couldn't remember how I heard, but now it makes sense. And that one, and I don't, according to Goodreads, you haven't read it, but I know you haven't always used Goodreads, so maybe. Because it's not a new book. It's like a 10 or 11-year-old. It's an older book.
Maybe I'll go get the audio that you were talking about on Kindle Unlimited and see, start listening to it. And I'm like, is this going to remind me of it? We'll see.
Yeah.
What are you currently reading now?
So I'm currently reading Jurassic Park. And I am also reading, I don't know, I typed it on here. Oh, no, I didn't. I put it on Goodreads. I'm like, I thought I put it on my list. I'm reading Jurassic Park because Sam Neill died, and he has played a most beloved character for me in Jurassic Park, Dr. Alan Grant. He's a prolific actor. I've loved him in everything that I've seen him in. So I'm rereading Jurassic Park, which y'all know gives me the warm fuzzies, even though it shouldn't. And then I am reading this professional development book, which let me real quickly go on Goodreads because I added it this morning. I was like, you haven't added it to your currently reading. So I'm like, so I did. And let's see here. Okay, here it is. The Keys to Planning for Learning, which is not something that most of you would want to read unless you're a world language teacher. So it's The Keys to Planning for Learning, Effective Curriculum Unit and Lesson Design, written by Donna Clementi and Laura Terrell. And it uses stuff from like our ACTFL, which are national standards and stuff like that. So world language teachers, you would appreciate it, but I'm reading it because it was cited on one of our curriculum documents where I work. And I was like, you know what? I want to go straight to the source and see how that source led to this, because the other source listed I've already read. So anyway, so just that's a little bit of nerdy reading plus just a comfort read. And maybe I'm going to start A Court of Silver Flames because I needed a break after A Court of Wings and Ruin, because y'all remember I had the fantasy fatigue. So we'll see. All right, what about you? What are you currently reading?
Fantasy fatigue is real, for real.
It is. It is.
So I'm reading a book that I saw on Instagram Reels, and maybe y'all have heard about it too, Salt by Mark Kurlansky. And it was an Instagram reel about a guy who's like, I think he moved to Italy, and he found this book about salt, and it's a 500-page book. And he started reading it, and he's like, I never knew salt was so interesting. And so he's talking about, like, he goes to a dinner party, and he tells them what he's reading.
I saw a reel about this. It was hysterical. Yes. He was telling them everything. Hysterical.
Yes. He's like, oh, at the dinner table, let me tell you about salt, and then goes on for too long. But I'm really enjoying it. I am not usually a nonfiction reader, but I'm learning so much. I'm like 11, I'm looking at it now, 11% in. I'm listening to the audio because I was like, I'm not reading a 500-page book, but I will definitely read a 17-hour book.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's not as intimidating. So,
which is so funny.
I would recommend it so far. Like I've learned a lot in the little bit of time that I've been reading it, and I've had to stop it and go back and research some stuff because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I want to go learn more about that.
Yeah. So, that's funny.
That's fun. Yeah. And then I'm reading an arc called Sit Right Here, 6 Mindfulness Practices to Help You Write More and Stress Less by April Davila. This is one that I'm behind on, so I'm trying to catch up. And I felt like it was very appropriate because I have been kind of stuck. I started editing my book and just kind of have been stuck. So I'm trying to read this, and it talks a lot about meditation and kind of different things that you can do to help like start creativity and start a flow again. So I was like, hey, this might be what I need. So I'm reading that. And then I'm also reading for my literary fiction book club that meets on Tuesday, Housekeeping for Marilyn Robinson. This is the same author who wrote Gilead, which I was not a fan of. So that kind of set me off on automatically not liking this book, but I was forced to read it for book club. But it's actually turning out really good. The main character is Ruth, and we see her kind of growing up. She lives in the house with her grandmother and her sister. You find out about her mother and what happened with her. And we know from the very beginning that her grandmother dies and that she has 2 aunts, great aunts, that come and live with her and her sister to help raise them. And then at another point, her actual aunt, her mother's sister, comes and stays with them too. So I'm not sure what happens to the great aunts because I haven't gotten that far. I will say I'm only like 40 pages in. Like I said, I have to have it read by Tuesday. So my day tomorrow is literally spent reading. I have Monday kind of off to read, and then book club meets at 6:30 on Tuesday. So
you got this.
I have like 200 pages to go, but it's going to be fine. I'm going to read it. And I think it helps that I'm already 40 pages in or whatever, and it's so much better than I liked Gilead. So that helped.
That is good.
And I did DNF a book this month, and that was Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. If anyone has tried to read this book, I was just like, what the F is happening? It was so wild. And this was for Neighbor Books' Big Messy Book Club. And it is a big book and it is very messy. The store owner was like, you just have to get through like the first 200 pages and then stuff starts making sense. He was like, don't try to read it for comprehension. Just get through those first 200 pages. And I struggled with that. And I was like, I can't read 200 pages of a book before it starts making sense. Like, no. So I DNF'd it. I started listening to the audio because I had the physical book and I kept falling asleep while I was reading it. So I was like, I'm going to listen to the audio. It was just not good. And apparently this is some great literary book, but not for me. Not for me.
That's fair. That's fair.
Have you been to any literary events?
No, but I know you've done some cool stuff recently.
Yes. So the first thing I did was I saw Amanda Iyer Ward at the McKinney Public Library. The Library Foundation brought some authors in, and she did The Jet Setters, and I can't remember the other book she did. She's done like 11 books. I didn't know this, but I had read 2 of her books. And this new book she has already came out, is Arrivals and Departures, and it's the same family from the Jet Setters, just set 10 years later. Like, what happened to them? She was really funny. I really enjoyed her. Her next book will feature a dog walker who's, I think, from Texas, but then goes to Colorado to be a dog walker, pet sitter for someone in Colorado. And she was trying to figure out what dog she should use. And I'm like, okay. One of them was a hound dog. And I was telling her about my friends' hound dogs that got out while I was pet sitting. And their names were Elvis and Presley. And I was going down country roads yelling, Elvis, Presley, which I thought was hilarious at the time. I was like worried about finding them, but also yelling,
That's
Elvis
hysterical. Presley. I love it.
And then I went to Waxahachie to see a store that if you're...
It is not Waxahachie. It's Waxahachie.
Oh, no, it's Waxahachie.
It is not. It is Waxahachie. I got people that live there. But yes, we can call it Waxahachie.
It's W-A-X. Waxahachie.
Okay.
I'm not the native Texan, so I'm going to defer to you.
Or the Native Americans that probably it was named for. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm going to look that up right now, actually. You keep talking because it's a really cool story.
Waxahachie, there is a bookstore that's a Harry Potter bookstore. So if you're from North Texas, you might have seen this on Instagram because I feel like there was a video that went viral. It's super cute. It's called Word and Wand. And Word is W-Y-R-D. I don't know if that's word or weird. I've heard it both ways. So I don't know, but it was a Harry Potter bookstore. It had a secret door. So if you go ask to see the secret door, there was an upstairs area that was really cute where you could sit and read, and it had a whole bunch of Harry Potter like picture spots. There was a trolley where you could buy snacks, the trolley cart. There was just a lot of really cool Harry Potter stuff. They had some really cute t-shirts, really cute stickers and bookmarks and all of that. But it was a really good bookstore too. Like it had a lot of really good books. You know how like every independent bookstore has their own selection of books. Yeah. This I felt like was a very good selection of new books and older books that were just really fun. And after my friend Robin and I went to that bookstore, we found a soda shop and we sat down, and on Buy Nothing, if you haven't gone to Buy Nothing on Facebook, you should do it. Someone had for free given me a copy of Harry Potter Guess Who. And so we played Harry Potter Guess Who while we had our soda fountain drinks. So that was really fun.
I want to play this game with you sometime.
Okay, let's do it.
For real.
I think we should definitely do it. And our friend Emily was talking about taking her daughter to this bookstore. And I'm like, you got to take the Guess Who as well, because it's fun. And it was a fun, like, little thing to go after you walk around the little square of not Waxahachie, Waxahachie.
Which I did look it up. It comes from a Native American word meaning Buffalo Creek or Cow Creek, derived from the local Waxahachie Creek and influenced by Southeastern Native American language roots. So,
all right. I will call it by the correct name from now on.
I know. You would think it was Waxahachie here in Texas.
Just the way that it's spelled, but
I know, yes. For real. All right. So,
all right. I think that's all that I have.
That's all that I have too. I mean, the next month might not look good for me just because back to school, which is crazy. So yeah.
It might look great for me because it's back to school.
You send the kids to school. You could get your own routine in.
Yes.
And yeah.
I'm excited about that.
But, very cool.
All right. Well, I guess we will see you next week.
Yep.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you for listening to More Than a Book Club podcast. We are recorded and produced in McKinney, Texas.
Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.